If you're a new reader and you don't quite know where to start, or if you're looking for some book recommendations and you're getting overwhelmed, watch this video because I'm going to be simplifying it for you. I'm going to be giving you some easy to read book recommendations. Hi everyone, I hope you're well and that you've had a good week. For those of you that are new here, hello, my name is Charlene and this is my little YouTube channel where I talk mainly about books, but also with a little bit of travel and lifestyle as well. And those of you that are back from another video, hello, thank you so much for being here. In today's video, I'm going to be taking you through some book recommendations, and these are for a couple of reasons. Firstly, I get a lot of friends and family who know that I love reading and that they come to me and ask me for book recommendations. I also get messages from you guys, which I absolutely adore, asking me for book recommendations. And as well as that, I've come across a few people recently who want to start getting into reading, but are so overwhelmed with the amount of books in shops and on BookTok and things like that, that they just don't know where to start. So I thought I'd simplify it for you and to give you my book recommendations for either a new reader or somebody who is just looking for some easy to read book recommendations. So just a quick bit of background about me and my reading journey. I read a lot now, but that wasn't always the case. I've always been a reader, but I've kind of dipped in and out throughout my life. When I was a child, I read quite a lot and I had a lot of books and that's what I liked to do. But then in my teenage years and early adult years, I think that felt a little bit too much like homework or schoolwork, so I didn't do it so much. From then, in my early adult years, I would read here and there, like very much like hit and miss, once in a blue moon. If somebody really recommended something to me, or if something just happened to catch my eye or something like that, I'd read here and there, but not consistently. But then a book I read completely changed all of that. And ever since I read that book, I have been reading every single day for so many years. I can't remember how many years, but quite a few years. And now it is one of my most favorite things to do. It is one of my ways to relax and unwind and escape. It's something that I do every single day. It's one of my main hobbies and one of my main interests. But I know for a lot of people, like, they don't know how to get into it. It seems like a complete, like, overwhelming thing of like, well, there's so many books in the world. Where do I start? So I thought that in today's video, I would try and break down a few different categories and topics and things like that, for what type of person you are as to what type of book that I'd suggest. Not necessarily will all of the books that I recommend in this video be my absolute favourites, but they are books that I would definitely recommend to a new reader or somebody looking for some book recommendations that are easy to read. And that is because some of my most favourite books are not necessarily the books that I would recommend for brand new readers or people just trying to get into reading. For example, one of my most favourite books is The Secret History, and it is potentially my #1 favourite book, but I would never recommend it to a brand new reader because it is just so heavy and long and kind of hard to get through in places. So it's not going to be one of the ones that I'd suggest. So everything in this video, I've really tried to think about if I was a new reader and I wanted something easy to read, I wanted something to get me in and to grab me and to make me fall in love with reading, these are the books that I'd suggest. The first book that I absolutely have to talk about is the one that changed everything for me. And just to give you a quick bit of background here, I was on my way to Florida on holiday and we were in the airport and it absolutely wasn't on my mind at all to buy a book because, like I said, up until now I've just been reading higgledy-piggledy here and there. So I just went into WH Smith's to see if I could pick up anything to make my flight less boring. There were absolutely no magazines that I was interested in and I was like, oh great, well what am I going to do now? So I just happened to walk past the bookshelves and I just happened to see this book. And since I picked this book up, I'm so glad I did because it literally changed everything for me. It's such a random one because I literally just picked it up off the shelf without even intending to or meaning to get into reading or anything like that. But I took it on the plane, I read it on my holiday, and I couldn't put it down. I'm in Florida and I couldn't put it down. Like, I remember one evening that we'd been round the pool all day and I'd been reading my book. And then we went back to the room to get changed, to go out for a meal at Disney Springs. And I was like, 1 minute, you have to wait for me, because I couldn't put my book down. And that is saying something, especially when you're in Florida about to go for a meal at Disney Springs. So the first book that I absolutely want to talk about is The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins. Now you will see this book is absolutely battered. It's got peeling off stickers, it's got crumpled pages, it's discolored, sorry. It's got like a yellowing edges and pages. It's got rips and it's got sun cream splodges on it. But I would always keep this book because this is the book that changed everything for me. This book I literally couldn't put down, and it was something that was really, really easy to read but also hooked me, which I think is what combination really sucked me back into reading, and it made everything brand new for me and made me want to keep on reading so much. So let me just very quickly read you the blurb of this book. Okay. Every day the same. Rachel catches the same commuter train every morning. She knows it will wait at the same signal each time, overlooking a row of back gardens. She's even started to feel like she knows the people who live in one of the houses. Jess and Jason, she calls them. Their life, as she sees it, is perfect. If only Rachel could be that happy. Until today. And then she sees something shocking. It's only a minute until the train moves on, but it's enough. Now everything has changed. Now Rachel has a chance to become a part of the lives she's watched from afar. So now they'll see she's so much more than the girl on the train. I don't even think that blurb does this justice. If you are looking for a book that's fast-paced, interesting, full of twists and turns, easy to read, if you like a thriller or you like a crime drama, you like a crime program even, or if you like a documentary that's a little bit like not too deep, but a little bit like edgy and interesting, I would 100% recommend you to read The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins. Like I said, this book changed the game for me. As soon as I read this, I was immediately back into reading, and I haven't missed a day of reading since the day I picked up this book. It literally changed everything for me, and I know I'm like harping on and on about it, but really, if you're looking to get into reading and you want something easy and light and interesting and gripping and exciting to start with, please consider picking up The Girl on the Train. The next book that I would recommend for a new reader or somebody looking for a book recommendation that's easy to read is A Court of Thorn and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. Now this book is something that is completely different to the other one that I've just recommended. This would be something that I'd recommend to somebody who is interested in fantasy, in romance, romantasy, who's interested in things like Game of Thrones, who likes things that's a little bit more otherworldly and a little bit more living in that kind of fairy tale space. This is definitely one that I'd recommend. I've got the whole series of books that I haven't gotten through yet, but this book is definitely one that I'd recommend for a new reader, somebody who's looking to pick up something that is in that kind of fairy tale fantasy world, but that also isn't too heavy or too complicated. I think the problem with a lot of those kind of fantasy books is that they're so overly complicated that like you absolutely can't imagine anything and you can't connect with any of the characters or the storyline because it's just so overly detailed. This has a good amount of detail and you really get to know the characters and everything like that, but it's just so much more accessible and easy to read and interesting. I felt like it got into it right from the beginning and I was kind of really interesting and gripped from page one of reading this book. So I'd highly recommend this one. Let me just read you the blurb. Feyre is a huntress. The skin of a wolf would bring enough gold to feed her sisters for a month. But the life of a magical creature comes at a steep price, and Feyre has just killed the wrong wolf. Taken prisoner by a high Fey lord, Feyre learns that her masked captor is hiding even more than his piercing gaze suggests. But as Feyre's feelings for Tamlin begin to burn through every warning she's heard about his kind, a shadow is falling across the land, and if Feyre cannot fight it, she will lose everything. The first book in the sweeping romantic fantasy series by #1 New York Times best-selling author Sarah J. Maas. So this one obviously is a huge book. People absolutely love this series and for good reason. It is a really, really interesting, entertaining, like fantasy book. It lives in that fairy tale realm. It's got elements of romance. So I think this would really appeal to a lot of different people. So another book that I would recommend for new readers is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. Fiction isn't for everybody. There are a lot of people out there who prefer biographies and non-fiction books. And so for those people, the book that I would recommend is Crying in HMart by Michelle Zauner. Now, this is a non-fiction book. It's like an autobiography, and it is still very easy to read. It's quite a thin book, which means that you're not going to be overwhelmed by the amount of pages, especially for a new reader. But it is such a beautiful and interesting story. So this is written by Michelle Zauner, and it is her story of her life and her childhood and her relationships with her mum and also with society around her. So Michelle is part Korean and part American, and it's about her experience of growing up as a Korean person in America and the type of prejudices that she faced and the struggles that she went through and struggling to identify with her culture being raised in America. Do I feel more Korean? Do I feel more American? Which side of my personality and my heritage do I connect more with? But more than that, it's also about her story and her relationship with her mum, with her partners, with her family, and with herself. And this book is so raw and emotional. In parts, it's like overly raw, like she's so brutally honest. And I thought that that was so refreshing. I absolutely love this book. There were parts in it when I cried, of course, but it is such a necessary book. It's such an interesting story. It is something that I think anybody can connect with, because even if your story is nothing like Michelle's, I'm sure that there's times in everybody's life when they're questioned who they are or how they fit in or how they connect to people or relationships with their parents or things like that. And it is, although it is very deep and it is very emotional, it is also a light read and it's funny in places. It's got a lot of information about food in it and culture and heritage, and it is just an absolute 5 out of 5. Would highly recommend. So if you're looking for a good non-fiction book, I would highly recommend Crying in HMart by Michelle Zauner. I know I've already talked about thriller books in terms of talking about The Girl on the Train, but there is another book that I wanted to call out as well if you're into thrillers or if you like something that's easy reading but also at the same time really interesting and really is a real page turner and something that keeps you guessing. And that is You by Caroline Kepnes. Now, this is a book that I read absolutely ages ago before the programme was a thing, and I refused to watch the programme because within the first 10 seconds of switching it on, I could tell that the characters were not at all who I'd imagined them to be. And so for me, this story is just so strong and important to me that I just didn't want to ruin it by watching the programme. But if you're interested in really kind of like weird page turner stories full of twists and turns, 100% I'd recommend You. Along with The Girl on the Train, this was one of the books that really got me into reading. It's fast paced, it's quick, it's easy, it's super interesting. It's like a story I've never read really, and it's just, I keep saying it, but it really was so interesting. So I'd really recommend You. Let me read you the blurb very quickly. When Guinevere Beck strides into the bookshop where Joe works, he is instantly smitten, and so begins an attraction that quickly spirals into a whirlwind of deadly consequences. A chilling account of unrelenting, terrifying obsession, Caroline Kepnes' You is a thriller more perversely clever and dangerously twisted than any you have ever read. Like I said, this was a real page turner for me. It's a pretty quick read. It's not too long of a book, and it's just so interesting. It's quite, although the subject matter isn't light, it's like a little bit about like stalkerish behaviour and things like that. But it's just so easy to read, and I really, like I said, it's really got me back into reading along with The Girl on the Train. So I'd highly recommend You by Caroline Kepnes. If horror is your thing and you're looking for something easy to read within the horror category, I've got you covered. And that is The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. This book was absolutely a joy to read. It is quite, I mean, first of all, the flop on it's amazing, but it was quite gruesome in places. But if you're a horror person and you like that, if you like horror and you like gore and you don't mind a little bit of like disgusting gory detail, but you love a horror story, I would highly recommend this one. This was fast paced, it was fun, it was interesting, it was a wild story. I couldn't tell where it was going to go. It was just a real fun read, so I'd highly recommend this. Let me read you the blurb very quickly. Patricia Campbell's life has never felt smaller. Her husband is a workaholic, her teenage kids have their own lives, her senile mother-in-law needs constant care, and she's always a step behind on her endless to-do list. The only thing keeping her sane is her book club, a close-knit group of Charleston women united by their love of true crime. Then James Harris walks into her life during the summer of 1993. He makes her feel things she hasn't felt in years, but when children on the other side of town go missing, Patricia wonders if he's connected. Is he a Brad Pitt, a Bundy, or something much worse? Honestly, it's scary, it's gory, it's got horror elements, but it's still light and fun and quick and interesting. And also I love that it's like got that kind of nostalgic like slasher film vibe to it. Like if you like horror films in the 90s, you're gonna love this. I personally love a slasher film. I feel like they are the best types of horror. Like I love Scream and things like that. And I absolutely love this. So if you like horror, especially 90s horror, I'd really highly recommend The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. The next book I wanted to talk about is a book that I don't actually have with me because I borrowed it from my local book swap and I've put it back since. But it is one that I'd absolutely recommend to new readers. If you're looking for something that's really interesting, witty, a light read, a bit more about kind of like celebrity drama, and if you're into those kind of like scandalous celebrity stories, I'd 100% recommend it. And that is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Now I've got up the blurb on my phone, so let me just read that to you quickly. Aging and reclusive Hollywood movie icon Evelyn Hugo is finally ready to tell the truth about her glamorous and scandalous life. But when she chooses unknown magazine reporter Monique Grant for her job, no one is more astounded than Monique herself. Why her? Why now? Monique is not exactly at the top of her world. Her husband has left her and her professional life is going nowhere. Regardless of why Evelyn has selected her to write her biography, Monique is determined to use this opportunity to jumpstart her career. Summoned to Evelyn's luxurious apartment, Monique listens in fascination as the actress tells her story. From making her way to Los Angeles in the 1950s to her decision to leave show business in the 80s, and of course the seven husbands along the way, Evelyn unspools a tale of ruthless ambition, unexpected friendship, and a great forbidden love. Monique begins to feel a very real connection to the legendary star. But as Evelyn's story nears its conclusion, it becomes clear that her life intersects with Monique's own in tragic and irreversible ways. Honestly, I've read this fairly recently and it was recommended to me by Brogan Tate, who is a wonderful YouTuber, and it was one of her books that she said she recommends to everybody. And at first I thought, I'm not really into that kind of like, that type of book or that kind of like celebrity gossip type of thing, but I can't tell you how much I enjoyed it. I laughed, I cried a couple of times, it was a real page turner, it was something that I just kind of devoured. It was easy to read, and if you're into that kind of like Hollywood, glitz and glamour, scandalous kind of thing, and those kind of twists and tales along the way, I'd really highly recommend it. If you're not really sure as a new reader where to start or what kind of book to pick up first, I would say that this would be a great one to start with. It's got a little bit of everything. It's got a little bit of drama, it's got comedy, it's got like elements of a life story, it's got twists and turns, it's got everything. So if you're looking for something and you don't know where to start, or if you're looking for something juicy and scandalous, I'd highly recommend The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. If you are somebody who enjoys science fiction and you enjoy those kind of programs and films where it just bends your mind and like everything's all a bit dystopian and all a bit different and scientific and all of that, then I would highly recommend Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. I am not a sci-fi girly at all. I would say it's one of my genres that I struggle with the most. However, I challenged myself to read Dark Matter by Blake Crouch in one day, and I couldn't have chosen a better book to do that challenge with. It was so easy to read for a sci-fi book. It was so interesting. I had no idea what was coming with the story. It was just full of twists and turns. And yes, it had elements of sci-fi and those kind of ideas that were a little bit outside of my knowledge, but I followed along with everything perfectly well. It was an easy to read book and so interesting. Let me read you the blurb. Are you happy in your life? Those are the last words Jason Desson hears before the masked abductor knocks him unconscious, before he awakes to find himself strapped to a gurney, surrounded by strangers in hazmat suits, before the man he's never met smiles down at him and says, "Welcome back." In this world he's woken up to, Jason's life is not the one he knows. His wife is not his wife, his son was never born, and Jason is not an ordinary college physics professor. Is it this world or the other that's the dream? The answer lies in a journey way more wondrous and horrifying than anything Jason could have imagined. Honestly, like, if you're into sci-fi at all, please do read Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. So I thought it'd be really interesting to get my husband's view as well. So I asked him, from a man's perspective, what books would you recommend to a new reader? That's not to say that these books are just for men, because of course they're not. Anybody can read these books. But just from his perspective, I was interested to know, what books would you say to somebody who's new to reading, these are the books you should read? And there were two that he picked out. Firstly, for somebody who's just looking for a generally light read, something that's super interesting and something that he really enjoyed reading, he recommended Anxious People by Fredrik Backman. This is something that I haven't read yet, but actually this book has recently been recommended to me by one of you guys as well. So this seems like a very highly recommended book, and I know it's one that people love too. So let me read you the blurb. It's New Year's Eve and House Tricks estate agents are showing people around an upmarket apartment where an incompetent bank robber rushes in and politely takes everyone hostage. For Annalena and Roger, busy buying up apartments to fill the hole in their marriage, it's something else to talk about. For Julia and Ro, panicky parents-to-be, it's yet another worry. Lonely bank manager Zara only came here for the view, while 87-year-old grandmother Estelle seems rather pleased by the company. As the police gather outside, the anxious strangers huddle within to try and make the best of a very sticky situation. But could it be that they have a whole lot more in common than meets the eye? So that sounds super interesting. Just a general book that you could recommend to anybody, like The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Anybody could pick that up and find that interesting. And that sounds like this book too. Just a really interesting, light, easy read. And the next book that he recommended, this is much more, he said this is a bit more niche, but if you're somebody who enjoys those stories like Game of Thrones and Lord of Rings, and you like those epics and you like those kind of like battles and things like that, he recommended The Way of the King series by Brandon Sanderson. This is nothing that I think that I'll ever get around to reading. There's so many books in this series and they're really, really chunky. However, don't let me put you off if this is your type of thing. It's not really my type of thing. But if you're somebody who loves like I said, like Game of Thronesy type thing, and you love like battles and the dragons and those kind of like medieval things, then this sounds really, really up your street. Let me read you the blurb. Storm-ravaged, war-torn Roshar lost its protectors, the Night Radiant, centuries ago, but now a new danger is arising and new heroes must be found to meet it. A soldier fighting on the shattered plains, a general seeing visions of the past, and a clever scholar seeking an opportunity are about to discover their world is greater, more mysterious, and in more peril than they ever could have imagined. So obviously, like I said, he said this one's a bit more niche for people who are really looking forward to something to get into that's like you can completely absorb yourself into it, or throw yourself into something that you're going to settle into and be there for a while. So if you're looking for that kind of thing, you want to get completely immersed in another world, you want fantasy to take over your life, and you want a complete escape from reality, then he recommended Way of the Kings by Brandon Sanderson. So I hope this video has really helped if you're a new reader or if you're looking for some book recommendations. I know for anybody that book talk and bookstagram and things like that can be really overwhelming. It's just completely full of people who are reading hundreds of books every week, and it's just, I don't know how they do it, and it can get very overwhelming. So I hope that this video has simplified things for you. Please let me know if you pick any of these books up, if you have any recommendations for other people, or if you want to see more recommendations for me. Chat to me in the comments, I'd love to speak to you. Thank you so much for watching this video, I hope you've enjoyed it. I'd love you if you would like this video and subscribe to my little channel, and I'll see you very soon in my next video. Thanks so much for watching, bye!